we are. Good afternoon. So originally we were going to have a guest speaker this afternoon, but as with a lot of busy women, she had a merger acquisition she had to fly out of the country for. So you're stuck with me. Yay! So when I spoke with Governor Kathy and she met with her board, we talked about my recent trip to the United Nations for CSW. Who in here knows what CSW is? Okay, so not a large percentage. CSW is the Commission on the Status of Women. And Soroptimist has been involved for many, many years. So I know that past Governor Marie Kennedy, Marie Diamato-Rizzi, past Governor Terry Pettengill, Deborah Wild have all been up. So has past Governor, all the hat wearer, Pat McKay. Anybody else attended CSW besides those? Yes, our Federation guests, of course. Deb, sorry about that. And Aisha. So the reason I wanted to talk about this, or Governor Kathy and I spoke about it, is one, it connects us globally. And so we're always talking about our clubs on the local level, the region level, the federation level, but what do we do globally that serves as advocacy for Soroptimist? I don't know the full reason, and I'm not going to get into this today, that SIA doesn't have delegation at the UN, only the other 4 federations. I know it has to do with Taiwan, and they're part of our federation. So I know very surface, and that's okay, because we can still go and serve. I was under the Women for Water Partnership as a delegate for Soroptimist International of the Americas. It was so amazing and overwhelming at the same time. So anybody who has attended would know this. It's their first one back after COVID, and so the attendance wasn't as high as years past for SIA. And I've spoken to Aisha. Erica Cheslak was there with me for 3 of the 9 days that I served up there. And I would love to see SIA have such a larger presence next year. And this is something, a way for us to be more involved, for a way for us to recruit new members. People that found out I was at the UN as a delegate for the Commission on the Status of Women thought I was all of a sudden very sophisticated and important. And I'm not.
Yes, you are.
You get to take care of it. So the goals of the Commission on the Status of Women for CSW 67 was the innovation and technological changes, achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls. The key recommendations for advocacy: digital education in STEM, access to tech, which is rural areas, women and girls with disabilities, older women, financial resources for women, youth and adolescent involvement, and the impact of tech and human rights. The things that I learned are mind-blowing. And so I didn't want to get caught up in everything, every session that I sat in. There were 123 normal sessions, and then there were like 720 parallel events, and a networking meeting every single night. I was at Meta headquarters for one of their networking events. I was at the Ford Foundation for Community Justice for one of their networking events, and the people that you meet who have the same alignment as Soroptimist is why we all need to be in the room. It's what we are all doing and what we should be doing. One of the biggest things we talked about at CSW was that 80% of all artificial intelligence coders are male. This is huge. Why is it so big? Why do you think?
Because women don't get a chance to learn it.
Great point. Women don't get a chance to learn it.
Or develop it.
They don't get a chance to develop the code.
There are more men working in technical jobs.
More men are in technical jobs.
And our perspective is not.
Perspective is different. Yes.
I'd just like to note Carly Kloss, the model, she teaches girls about coding. She has a program she funded herself.
Absolutely.
So we need more of that kind of opportunities for girls.
100% agree with you. And what do we focus on as Soroptimists?
Girls and women.
Women in education,
Women in
girls in
education.
education. So how could we tie the two together to become more relevant on the global scale, right?
A special scholarship for anybody who wants to learn how to do AI.
For STEM, for AI, right? And these are things that when we're at the table and we learn what's happening around the world, that we can take our programs and have them have even more of an impact. We discussed yesterday that most of the women who receive our Live Your Dream Award, what field are they going into?
Nursing.
Nursing, education, social work, accounting. Amazing. We need all of those fields. We're nurturers by nature, right? But what are they not going into? STEM. They're not going into STEM. If they are going into STEM, they're leaving before their chance to go up the ladder to the higher careers like artificial intelligence. And so one of the resounding consensus that I heard was we're reverting back to a patriarchal society in the sense that all of the information pushed to us, 80% of it is written by a man. Not because we can't do it, we're choosing not to as women. We're not having our young girls study this. And what somebody said, I can give my niece or my daughter a telescope or a microscope instead of a doll, right? We have to start to encourage it. And I know Sarah's a scientist, Dr. Sarah B. And I'm sure that she would have so much input. And I thought about her while I was there. I was like, oh, I should have called her and made her come up here with me. And there's so many of you. But there's so many things that we need to be doing. At the current rate of progress, it'll take 286 years to achieve gender equality. And this is one of the big sustainable development goals. It's number 5 at the UN, and we are way behind. COVID actually set us back because of the technology advances we think are helping us. They're really limiting women. And some women in other countries are actually scared for their life because now the men in their country have surveillance on them in their own homes. So they used to find a safe haven in the kitchen. And they told us this in parallel events. My safe place used to be in the kitchen. I would cook dinner and he wouldn't hit me. I would cook dinner and I wouldn't be in trouble. Now they can watch me do that and I'm still in trouble all the time. Terrifying, like I have goosebumps from it. When we think something's a big deal, and you go see what is a big deal, those things aren't a big deal anymore, right? We're really in our bubbles. 37% of the world has no access to internet. 37%. The digital divide of our globe is occurring at a rapid rate. And what that means is there's so many people that we're trying to help, we're gonna create an app for domestic violence. We're going to create an app for human trafficking. 37% of the world doesn't have access to an app. Infrastructure has to be changed. I can't do that. You can't do that. But could we be advocates for people that could, right? If we're all up there advocating, making a difference, making our position known, could we help to change some of these statistics? Women are most harmed by technology. Sexual sharing of images, threats, manipulation, dedicated to putting women back into their place. Women no longer feel safe in their homes due to surveillance. 50% of women and girls use fake names and profile photos in Afghanistan for fear of being killed. Murder. Not, oh, my husband's gonna be mad at me. If they know that they're on Facebook or social, they will be killed. Tech is a solution for so much, but it's a nightmare for so many. Who's creating AI? For whose benefit, and what is the agenda? There are gender bias algorithms all day long. That's all that's pushed out to us, right? We think we have a mind of our own, but we don't put our cell phones down. We don't think for ourselves. We are fed the information that they want us to receive, and then we live in that space. We don't disconnect. And that's why technology is terrifying. Earlier when I said we want to have the personal relationships, I want to be able to call you and say, hey, what do you think about this? But I also want to be able to move quickly through some other things. There has to be a balance because tech is only moving faster. They said AI will have 80% of the jobs extinct by 2040. Accountants, the IRS, they already know how much money to make. It's sent to them. They know how much money I owe them before I file my taxes. Do you really think that that's not going to be a job that's gone soon? Accounting. And they just added more features. Impacts on children. 80% of children in 25 countries fear online abuse and sexual exploitation. We talk a lot about what's happening here, and I think it's super important, guys. I think where we are able to help is to have young girls go into STEM, go into coding, right? But around the world, again, we're a global organization, and we fail to include that in our advertising, in our marketing, in our member recruitment, right? Why? We're so, I don't want to say we're small-minded, because I tend to get stuck. It's a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And I'm happy where I'm happy, right? But I need to expand that. I need to grow beyond that. UNESCO, Women for Ethical AI platform is launched to create fair and inclusive algorithms. So we can't write the algorithms. Is there somebody that could help us make sure the algorithms that were written are at least fair and inclusive until we get more women into coding and AI? They're working on it, right? But as they're working on it, how fast is tech flying in front of them? We can't catch up. We can't catch up. This was my favorite person at the UN, Amandeep Singh Gill. He was speaking on behalf of the Global Digital Compact. He said we need to move away from masculine, aggressive, misogynistic approaches to more nurturing, open, and inclusive approaches. This man was amazing. I went to 3 of his panels. I followed him around because he just got it. And I was like, oh, geez, if more people could hear him speak. And he wasn't just speaking to women. He's like, I need the men to hear me. We will have a better country. And he said, if you want to put it into economic dollars, because that's the focus of our world right now, we are losing $1 trillion because women aren't more advanced in AI. He said, so put it out there, tell people so that they can have more women come up, do more internships with tech. Multi-layer policies, target lowest level, develop tools for the least socioeconomic household. Absent hardware do not fix the problem. We just talked about the infrastructure. There's a lovely young lady, I have a picture with her on my last slide. Her name's Pashtana Durrani. She actually lived in Afghanistan. She's an educator for Afghanistan, but when the Taliban took over, she was forced into exile. So she's living up in New York right now, but she has to go back, and she's still running the schools from here. And she said, please, for the love of all things, don't tell me the solution is another app. She's like 26 years old, and she is just so well-spoken and just such an advocate for human and women's rights. Masculinity is the hardest part to change in a patriarchal society. 195 countries in the world. Somebody raise their hand, or a few people. How many do you think have equal rights for women? Paula?
Maybe a third.
A third? Okay. Anybody else? Hand up. Marie?
I would say no more than 15%.
15%. Give me a number, like out of 195, 40, 70, 80. 20? 7?
I would say
0, 0?
35.
14. 14 countries have full equal rights for women. The United States is, no, it's at like 16. It's at like 16. And I'll show you another slide in a few moments as to why that is. And it opens my mind even more. I'm in service work, you guys. I've worked in healthcare and fitness for 20 years. I'm not in STEM, I don't write code, but I'm terrified by what's happening in the tech industry, and I want to know what we can do. I love giving back to people. I love people. But if we continue to allow men to write our policies, write our code, and create our laws, we're going to continue to get the same thing we've been getting. And regardless of our stance, our platform on demographics, gender, LGBTQ, women and men's minds are different. Doesn't matter that any doctor or scientist can tell you that. More statistics, because I like statistics. 383 million women and girls live in extreme poverty globally. 30% of all young people under the age of 26 have faced violence in their relationship. Every 11 minutes, a girl is killed, murdered. Not by accident, not because they were sick, but killed globally. 24 of the 193 member states of the UN are women. How annoyed do you think those 193 people, well, minus the 24, were that they were sitting there with thousands of women, right? Yeah, they were loving life, weren't they? They're like, oh dear. Really had to try hard to be nice. 5% of mayors in the United States are women. 5%. Davy's got a woman mayor, so does Tampa. Fort Pierce.
Better. Indian town.
It is getting better. We can name cities that have female mayors now. But even if we look back to the COVID pandemic, how many of you guys read the article about the countries that were doing the best through the pandemic? It said there were 3 countries, and I can't tell you the 3 of them, but all 3, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, led by women, right? Yeah. Right? Tells you a lot. Yeah. 5% of Fortune 50 companies are led by women. Only 5%. We're not talking Fortune 500, but Fortune 50. The top 50 companies, only 8% are led by women. Women earn 84 cents to every dollar a man earns in the US, and globally it's only 52 cents. Now this number has come up because I know a few years ago we spoke and I think it was 74 cents or 76 cents. So we are up to 84 cents. Yay, progress. Right. 1 in 3 women have been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused in their lifetime. 1 in 4 high school girls in the United States here at home does not graduate high school. 1 in 4. So in your bubble where you live and you feel so happy and your schools are so great and everybody's graduating, what about those communities nearby? Why are we still not bridging that gap? Why are we still not having hard conversations? I watched a video the other day. I can't remember when. Never quote me on days or dates. I never know. I thought Friday was 3 days ago. And it said, you want to know what happens when your tax dollars build the schools in your community? What do you guys, why do you think the tax dollars that build the schools in the community matters? The rules?
I mean, well, they'll be, the guidance will be back on them. I mean, like on the federal government or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. She said that the guidance would be back more on the federal government, right? If there's not enough tax dollars in that community, right? So there's not as many rules. Anybody else?
Well, it keeps us, I think about that image I showed earlier, right? Where you have the box, give the same size box given to everyone. So I'm thinking about the image that I showed earlier where you have the same box given to everyone. But the fence, depending on what your circumstance here is here. And so the issue with tax dollars funding schools is that if you're from where I'm originally from, the Bronx, the schools are poor because the income is low.
Yes.
And if you now live where I live now, where we said, okay, we don't want to do this with our kids, we want to get them out of here. The schools are amazing. The public schools are amazing. State-of-the-art schools, because the money is there.
And parent involvement.
Parent involvement. Thank you, Aisha. It is amazing when you look at equality versus equity. Aisha spoke about this earlier. We all have access to the school system, right? We all have it. We all have free public education. Go to some of those schools. Get out of your bubble. We're impacting lives, yeah, but could we impact lives that could actually change? A lot of the people that are in those public schools where they have, a private chef in the cafeteria, they have a senior hallway with massage chairs, the kids are driving BMWs at 16 years old. Those aren't our people. They're great. Congratulations. We've stepped up. Our kids are coming up with us. But how do we bridge this gap? How do we continue to make a difference? And if money is still that driver, how can we go in there and tell these young girls, hey, You may not live in the highest socioeconomic class, but let me show you where there's opportunity. Let me show you how to step out of here, right? We can't just keep this divide that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And all COVID did was make the rich richer. That's all it did. I mean, people raked in money during COVID. And that's okay. Yay, free market, go make your money. But how are we going to help the people that were held down or the people that can't get out, right? This is it. This is what the government provided for me because I live here. So this is the best I get. And when we think about other countries, it's beyond fathomable, beyond. Only 7% of single mothers finish college. That's huge for Soroptimists.
I'm one of those.
Congratulations, way to go. Yeah, Daphne. So many statistics in this room. I used to think that all of us were here because we all suffered some type of terrible childhood trauma. I was like, oh, we all get along. Joanne's like, no. And then I spoke to some people and they're like, no, I just love the mission. I'm like, well, cool. I feel like at least 75% of you probably experienced something because we're passionate about it because we've lived it. We've been there. And the ones that haven't lived it, great, excellent. Provide your perspective. Help us understand. 50% of all internet searches in the world are for pornography. 50%. 50%. And do you know, right, that I was like staring at the screen and then I was like, did I hear him right? Did he put that slide up right? I'm not sure I saw this correctly. It is a terrible market. It is a terrible world, and all that's happened in the pornography industry as it has increased human trafficking, sex trafficking, and sex violence. Because as with, and you may not agree with me and that's okay, violent video games, right? And now kids are desensitized. We're gonna go in and shoot up schools. We're gonna go in and shoot people. The same type of level up happens with pornography. So we're gonna look at an image of a child. That doesn't excite me anymore. Now we're gonna look at an image of that child with another child. Then we're gonna look at an image of that child with an adult. Now it's so bad, we're gonna have that child being hurt in these videos. And this is how it's happening. It's rapidly increasing. And as a lot of our members here that are involved in human trafficking know, the United States is the *1 consumer of sex trafficking. We're not the #1 supplier, right? But we're the #1 consumer.
The thing with pornography is they slip it under freedom of speech.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
What's dangerous? What's not? Right?
well, it's like, I don't know what it is, but I know what it is when I see it.
Sure. Yeah. And the thing that we met at a meet, I met her personally, but she's not like a friend of mine. She works for Meta, and they have something called stopncii.org. So I attend this parallel event. I'm super excited. NCII is non-consensual intimate images. And I was like, great, we're gonna stop all this from being posted, right? So you guys tell me what you think. I'm listening to it. Aisha, I'm gonna use you as an example. Aisha has a picture on her phone and it's an intimate photo. She shares it with her husband, right? Or her boyfriend. We'll just say your boyfriend right now. They break up. Aisha's, power at a women's organization. She's sharing these images. I can bring her down by sharing that image publicly, right? So could we stop ncii.org by saying, hey, we don't want that, this is me. Take that image down, right? That's me. Don't put that image up there. Makes sense. So I said, well, how are you going to stop the image from being out there? And they said every digital image has a hash mark or a hashtag, not to be confused with the hashtag that Casey spoke about. But there's a digital footprint. And if Aisha knows, I have 10 intimate images on my phone of myself that I want to make sure are never shared, what Meta wants us to do is upload those images to stopncii.org. They'll be saved in a file that's not visible,
Yeah.
So it's not visible, and then Aisha's boyfriend, and she break up, he uploads it they get a ding, ding, ding. This image is already in stopncii.org, and we see somebody else has posted it. So we're going to take it down, but the only way we can confirm it's non-consensual intimate image is by now opening that file and looking at it, confirming it's NCII, and then we're going to take it down, right? So I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound very safe to me. I feel like now all the intimate images are just out there for when the world falls apart even more. And he assured me, the guy, not the girl, they're safe. Not safe. They started a campaign. They asked us to post. This is Meta headquarters. And you're talking about AI. I walked in, they're like, welcome, Michelle. I was like, oh gosh, what is actually happening? So when we don't think it's happening, and it's happening fast at rapid speeds. So I said, well, why couldn't I just say, hey, there's this image circulating of me. Here's my face. Here I am. Take it down. Because there's no global oversight of the internet. Who owns it? Who owns it? And they don't even own it, right? Because if you open a porn site in Sweden and then you push it over to Afghanistan and then you swing it over to Boston, Boston's like, that's not my problem. That original site is owned in Sweden. And Sweden's like, we don't own it anymore. That's been sent over to Afghanistan. Are we going to Afghanistan to take that porn site down? Not today, not today. And it's moving so rapidly that the UN is trying to put some type of system in place. And that's where Meta stepped in and was like, hey, we can help. Here's the other sad thing. Under 18, you can't upload the NCII because it's uploading images of minors, which is illegal. So minors can't be protected through the same site that adults can, because it's now a crime. So then a company over in London said, hey, we've got the solution to that. We'll create a site for minors. Most of the intimate images are now being taken by teenagers and shared with friends or partners. And those minors aren't protected. There's nowhere to call and say, hey, my 16-year-old shared a picture with her boyfriend. He circulated it around school. Why are we seeing such high suicide rates, right? These are things at the UN that I'm sitting there, and it's not just about learning, it's about advocating, and then it's about what action can we take. Because sometimes there's nothing we can do, or we don't think we can do, until you go and then you unite with other people. And it's like, okay, how can we fix this? I'm not a fan of stopncii.org, but there were at least 30 people I met who were like, this site is amazing. And they were educated, they were in nonprofit, and they were women. And they said, this is how we're going to prevent this. And I said, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. I don't know, but I don't feel, and he said, oh, in 2017, there was an article that said Facebook wants all your new photos. I said, yeah, I remember that. You still do, right? Like, that's still what you're asking people to do. He's like, no, it's not like that. So check out the site. You'll see it's interesting. You can't get too far without uploading an image. But it's a platform. I was trying to think of OnlyFans, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit. There's 6 major companies sponsoring this stopncii.org that will all have those files in an image, or all those images in a file. The United States makes up 4.25% of the world's population. 4.25%. Now, we are third only to China and India. And that's also because the other continents have many countries inside their continent. But the United States, how powerful we are, how obnoxious we are, how we think we control everything. We're 4.25% of the human race. Think bigger. Think bigger. It's so much bigger than us. And so when we talk about, oh, I love Soroptimist, but I don't know if we're going to do a banquet, a buffet, or a plated dish, or I want the pink napkin, Aisha. Give me the pink napkin, Aisha. Why are we focused on the wrong thing? And that's what I think about Soroptimist. There's not one of you that could drive me out of here. You could be mean to me, you could kick me. I'm like, I'm still here. Because I love our mission, I love what we do, and I want other women and young girls to step up, pull them up. Who was it that said that earlier? Was it you? Probably. Bring them up, get them out, show them opportunity. And we're never too old. There's my friend, he owns a little school called Code Ninjas. He owns a franchise. And I was like, Samir, can I come when the kids aren't there and learn coding? And he's like, you're weird. I was like, I know that I'm never going to write, Python, but I want to know more so that maybe my niece can do more, right? The United States is ranked 53rd for gender equality. 53rd. Yes, ma'am.
I just was gonna add something, sorry if I interrupted you.
No.
So 7% of the single mothers finish college. Another really interesting statistic, it might be. So only 7% of the single mothers finish college, that's a new statistic for me. And I heard, a couple of clubs are working with single parent programs, which is really awesome. But another statistic a lot of us probably don't know, and because I used to be a manager of a GED program, which is where we got some of our award candidates, only 10% of the people in GED programs finish. So that's a market for you to look for programs as well.
That's an amazing opportunity for Soroptimists, right? Contact your local school system and their GED department. How can we mentor Marie Ambrosino at Education, Wesley Chapel, Florida? How can we get more involved, right? Statistics amaze me. I don't know if they're, good for you, but they keep me humble. They keep me realizing like, hey, it's not about you, Michelle. It has nothing to do with you. And the reason we're 53rd globally for gender equality is because we don't have hardly any female in politics. It literally, we fall off a cliff when they rank that section of the United States for gender equality. But what does that mean?
More women in politics.
We need more women in politics, but who's writing our laws? Who's voting on our resolutions?
I'm elected.
Yeah,
You can do it.
you can, but we need more of you, right?
You can do it.
So if we have this men writing our AI, so they're controlling our internet. They're controlling when we ask Uncle Google, right? He's not Aunt Google, he's Uncle Google, right? Have you ever said, oh, I'm gonna ask Aunt Google? No, I'm gonna ask Uncle Google.
Google is sexless.
It's sexless, but the person responding back when I asked the question was written by a man. So I agree that Google is gender neutral, but the question that I asked that comes back was written by a man, most likely. There's a 20% chance that Mary Beth wrote it for me, but there's an 80% chance she didn't, right? When we're talking about laws written, we're talking about government, we're talking about politics, men. Again, why does it matter? Look at our country, look where we're headed, look what we're dealing with. The nurture versus nature, the way women run businesses, the way we communicate, the way we operate, it's different. And it's not that we need either or, we need equal, right? We need men and women to work together, and we need more men to understand the importance of women in these roles. Oh, this was a great one, guys, and this is where we're gonna have a little discussion. What time you got, Governor Kathy?
3:30.
All right. Question posed on the UN floor by a 17-year-old. They're trying to have more youth advocacy at the UN. Ambassador Joyini from Africa. She's sitting up there. She's looking so official. I love her. And the 17-year-old says, a lot of girls in my high school speak about OnlyFans and stripping as a current or future job. Do you think promoting our sexuality is detrimental for our future? Or is it us embracing the femininity that has been hidden and suppressed for so long? What a question. I text my sister. She's an 8th grade science teacher. I'm like, hi, need some help. Are they stripping in OnlyFans at 17? Is this what we're doing? And she's like, yes. Hello. Yes. This is why you can't hire 19 to 21-year-olds to work at your medical practice, Michelle, because they sit at home and they put their naked images on OnlyFans. and they're making more money sitting in their bedroom than they would be if they came to do medical charts at your practice. Ambassador Duane says, oh, that's a great question. It's one we're not going to be able to answer at this time, but I would love for you to talk to your mentors and the other women in this room, water cooler talk, and dive more in depth to that. So when we think about how women, girls, what they're seeing, what they're used to, where do you guys think that question came from? Any hands? Because I literally was stumped. Instagram. TikTok. Music videos. Social media.
Everything's about
Influencers. Right? All my friends are going to Paris, Mom. Are they? Really? Because we work for a living. So go cut the grass and we'll have dinner at Outback. I don't know what to tell you. But parents have to be more involved, right? There was a question on a group Facebook page in Wesley Chapel and said, could somebody send me something that would scare my daughter to stop talking to strangers on the internet? So I forwarded her an article from March. Like, here's one where the girl was kidnapped and held in a shed. How's that? Right? But we're not having those conversations because even as parents, we're trapped in this, oh, I've got to have likes, I got to post, I've got to get this out there. I've got to like this. Oh, I'm compared to you. Oh, you look so put together. I'm a total mess today. Oh, I'm nobody. What? What are we doing? But have we lacked embracing our femininity? I don't know. I don't know what the next generation thinks. I know that I was raised more on the Audrey Hepburn, had more class than Marilyn Monroe. Beautiful woman, lover, biography, hard history, not knocking her at all, right? But this was how my grandmother said, hey, we don't have any money, but you're gonna keep your, whatever. This is how it's gonna go. We don't have that anymore.
But is it femininity or is it sexuality?
So it's, exactly. What they're embracing is sexuality, right? What she said was femininity. And they're not the same. They're not the same.
But she's talking about promoting sexuality.
She's talking about promoting sexuality, correct.
You can't use those two words.
But in a 17-year-old's mind, they are one and the same because they're saying, you held me down with my femininity, so I'm going to embrace my sexuality.
Yeah.
You've held me down with my sexuality, so I'm going to embrace my femininity. Right? Either way, to them, we've been doing this a long time. We've been in the room. Right? 17-year-olds are like, they're the same. I can have my butt hanging out of my shorts. It's not a big deal. And listen, I don't promote just discrimination on what people are wearing. Wear whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy. But my child, I don't have any, but my niece, I'm like, hey, you're not going out with me like that today. Love you, let's go, right? My choice. We have to be involved. So I tell you all this and to tell you that I would love to see us more involved at the UN. I would love SIA to have more members there. Aisha and I spoke about it. And I would love the Southern region to be well represented next year in March. I would love to go back if SIA will accept me as one of the delegates. There are ways to apply when it happens, but this is Soroptimist and the UN objectives. During CSW, Soroptimist International Profile is mainly done through contributing to the NGO CSW Forum, participating in events and other activities, including reports. We can raise the profile by networking with other organizations, government representatives, and other relevant parties. Provide information on Soroptimist International through distributing materials when appropriate. Provide information on SI's key asks and messages. They will send those to you before you go, so you know what you're talking about, right? One thing I did find, and I don't want to ever happen in our Southern region, is for you to go up there and then not promote Soroptimist or promote yourself. It's about what we're doing here, the advocacy for Soroptimist.
Michelle,
Yes.
they used to get a lot of their data from our focus reports. What are they using for their data?
Our data on our programs. By and large, our data from our programs.
Thank you for the question, Paula. So this is a comment from SI Director of Advocacy, Lee Elwood Brown. Adorable, I love her, by the way. And you meet the most amazing people. I'm going to Ireland, and all the other federations are going to be there, and I met 81 of them at the UN. So now I'm going to go to Ireland, like, hey, friend, and I met them one time. It's a really great connection. We are powerful as one. Tampa has always said we are one, so that hit with me, right? Let us collectively advocate decision makers and governments of all levels to make a difference in this world for women and girls. UN Women have a target to reach gender equality by 2030. From the latest figures released in the Gender Snapshot Report of 2022, it shows the development of humans catching a moon pod to the settlements on the moon and other major technology steps forward before we reach full gender equality in the next 300 years. Pause.
Yeah.
Sarah, can you build me a moon pod? Right? Scary. Scary. This affects the lives of our daughters, our granddaughters, and many more generations of women and girls. We need your help. It's time to make that difference and shorten the time span to reach gender equality. These were just a few photos. The General Assembly floor, some of the SIA members that I was there with, and then Pashana Durrani, the Afghan educator. Those memories are just a few, like I said, 9 straight days in New York. I wasn't there. People were like, oh, did you get to go out? Did you see a Broadway show? I was so, it was Governor Kathy. She asked if I went to a Broadway show. It was her. I couldn't even think. I got back to my hotel room and I was like, ooh, there's another virtual event tonight. So I put on my pajamas and logged into another event. There was so much data and I took notes upon notes so that I know what I'm trying to advocate for and what speaks to me, what speaks to the Soroptimist mission, right? What are we there for? So hopefully I didn't go over time. I hope you enjoyed this and I will turn it back over to Governor Kathy. Oh. So Governor Kathy said I'd have 1 more minute so we can take a few questions.
Thank you. I just want to tell everyone that there's something called UN Web TV. If you Google it, all the proceedings at the UN are recorded and you can watch it either live or at a later date. You could even go back and get the CSW panels and what have you. And as Michelle said, there were 700 parallel events. A parallel event means it's in a location outside of the UN, a building nearby. And so you could go to New York during the time period of CSW. You don't have to register for anything. You can walk into any of the parallel events. And they have a schedule of them. So if you're not able to register or you're only able to go for a day or two, you could still participate at some level.
That's a great point. There were so many, as you said, so many ways to participate in CS.
And SIA hosted a parallel event virtually, and please view it, it's on the website.
Was that the one on older women?
The one on our program.
On the
Yes.
Because there were 2. There was one, and if I can find the recording, it was on, and that's the other thing, really quick, Governor Kathy. I met a mayor, her name's Rami. She's from Banjul, Gambia, and she's a female mayor in Africa. And she's not allowed to receive any type of funding from the government because she's a female. And so they have vegetation in their village, and the women, have the vegetation, have the gardens, but they don't have the money to put fences around them. So by the time the vegetation grows, 70% has been eaten by animals. And so she was trying to get funding just to put fences so they don't now die of malnourishment and they can't get a loan. So she was there advocating for micro funders. Hey, could somebody help me get money to build a fence for around our crops, right? I spent some time with her because it's like, my goodness. And then there was something else that you said that flagged my mind, but I can't think of it right now. So there's just a lot that we can do. If you want to talk more about it, or if you're interested in going to the UN next year, let me know. And I know there's plenty of people here that have attended, but I hope we have a better presence. So thank you.
I'm so glad whatever happened with our speaker is good for her, and this was good for us. Thank you very much. And I do want to say that nurses are scientists too.
They are. Heck yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how many of you know this, but before Violet Richardson became the first president of the first Soroptimist International Club of Oakland, California, she was a PE teacher at a university in California. And
I knew that.
at one time, well, that's one. Good.
500 points.
Too late.
So at that time, they had someone going around from class to class to take attendance, and it happened to be a man. Somehow she found out that he was receiving a higher paycheck than she was for taking attendance. So she went to the dean and she fought her case, and he told her she would not receive a raise hike. So she left and she went to work someplace else. He called her and told her he wanted her back, that he would give her what she was asking for. She went back, asked for a contract, so that in the contract it stated how much money she was going to be making, and so he and she could sign it, and he did. She was of the Soroptimists, the first women activist that we know. She had the willpower to do what she did, and I think that's our job, to give these young girls and women voices to say that this is what they want, whatever the career is, whether it be science, technology, being a general ed teacher or whatever. You have to fight for what you want and what you deserve.
I couldn't agree more. I think we don't ask.